friends, thank yourselves for having yourself right now. I want to invite you to start just like this by welcoming yourself right now in this space of practice that you chose to dedicate today. Let's do that. Let's take a couple of breaths. Maybe do anything your body needs to really, really land in this moment, to relax, to release some tensions. Closing your eyes if that's available. Really welcoming ourselves in the moment, in the now. As you're doing, I'm doing this. As you're seeing, I'm doing this switch. I'm turning within. I'm really meeting my body. I'm taking a moment to feel my body seating just as it is. I've made a few adjustments. I've opened my shoulders. I found my center. I moved left and right a little bit. I'm sitting on a cushion. So I've checked that I have the right height, so that my hips are higher than my knees and my lower back can be very relaxed and straight without straining. Long spine. And if you're sitting on a chair or on a sofa with your feet on the floor, I want to invite you to check also, how are my feet right now? Just that, how are my feet right now? And can I bring more weight? A little bit more weight in the sole of the feet, in the hands, wherever they're resting right now. I want to invite you to do a sigh or two or three. Kind of signaling the nervous system, as Mark so beautifully said earlier, that, now we can press pause on the multitasking, on the doing. We can just be there. Just going to make this sound louder. Voila. Thank you. So we can just be there. Be in the simplicity of being. And really, that's the first gift of practice. Being in the simplicity of now. Meeting my body, meeting my breath. Maybe we can kind of set this intention for the next couple of in-breaths. Meeting our Neshama, our breath. And on the out-breath, meeting our Neshama, our soul. On the in-breath, we can say Neshama. And on the out-breath, Neshama. Right, in Bereshit, we read that the way we were brought to life is through God, the source of life, breathing through our nostrils the breath of life, Nishmat Chaim. So that when we receive this breath, our soul becomes alive. Each breath is ensouling and souling us again and again. Let's just sit quietly for 2 more minutes, welcoming this Neshama, this breath, saying hello to this Neshama, this soul. And if thoughts are coming and distracting you, that's really, really fine. The only thing that we're doing is coming back to this intention, meeting this moment, meeting the next breath. Neshama, Neshima. It's a practice of coming back. And if it helps you to connect more with yourself and with the moment, helps you be more present, you may place a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly. If you've been sitting with me, you might know it's a practice I love. Hello, sweetheart. Hello, breath. Hello, soul alive. And speaking of encounter, of intimacy, connecting to the source, the Neshama, I want to share a few words by the Hasidic master, the Me'or on this week parasha. Very, very simple. I'm going to share the soul sheet, but you don't have to look at it. You can stay like this with your eyes closed and receive these few words from within your meditation. The soul sheet will be posted and you'll have it for after as well. So really choose how you want to practice right now. And know that if you want to stay in your quiet and receive these words with your eyes closed and go deeper in your meditation, this is very, very welcome. And Kat just posted the soul sheet in the Dropbox, and I'm going to share my screen with it. Parashat Tetzaveh talks about levushin, clothing of the Kohanim, the priests. And as we are going towards Purim, it's a lot about levushin also, clothing by which we both hide ourselves and also reveal ourselves. And here the Me'or talks about the clothing of God. Starting with this question: how can we cleave? How can we embrace very closely, very intimately the divine, the Vikut? Since God is this consuming fire, Esh Ochelet, Ochla. Right? Can you grasp light directly? It's too intense. So the Me'orenaim is saying, well, Hele et bak b'midotav. Instead of cleaving to God, to the source of life and light directly, can cleave to their midot, to their qualities. And then he's quoting the Talmud, Masechet Shabbat, Mahu rachum af ata rachum, etc. Just so God is compassionate, so you too be compassionate. And I just absolutely love how he points to us that the deepest mystical experience that we're looking for, right? Embracing the divine, connecting deeply to the divine, is not something that happens necessarily on the top of a mountain when we're alone in a sublime state of ecstasy. We actually do it through embodying the divine's qualities, starting with compassion. You want to meet God? Be compassionate. Right? So deceptively simple. Be compassionate. Be compassionate towards your partner that's irritating you, towards your child that's going on your nerves, towards this person in the street, cut you in the line, towards yourself when you made the same mistake again. I'm getting a message. The sound is too low, so I'm coming yet closer. Be compassionate. That is the bottom line of the message. If you want to meet God, be compassionate with humans, starting with yourself. This is my pirush, my add-on. And then he finishes by saying that the midot are the tzimtzum of God's presence al yedei lafshuto be'or. That God dresses God's self in light, in the light of Torah, in the light of instruction. I want to invite you for our meditation today. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for now. For our meditation today, to feel this light, the light of compassion. And maybe it's something very easy for you, maybe it's not so easy. I want to invite you to be open, even playful with it, since we're coming towards Purim. To bring some lightness in your practice right now. So we'll sit quietly for 10 minutes. Coming back to your body. Coming back to your hands on your heart and your belly if it's still there. Back to just feeling yourself with compassion, with this light of compassion. Just like a flower, when we've watered it, it just soaks in. It just really drinks in the water. And so we're nourishing ourselves. We're receiving the nourishment of compassion, the light of compassion. And it doesn't matter how many times your attention wanders away in thoughts. That's the normal by default mode of being. What matters is to come back. This is a concentration practice. We're coming back to this intention of really connecting to compassion. I'm nurturing the seed within. For the last couple of minutes, the last 3 minutes of our seat, I want to invite you now to visualize yourself today. Or the next time you find yourself in a situation that usually is triggering for you. It doesn't have to be too intense. What would it look like to embody compassion in this moment? In that moment. How would it feel inside? How would you be relating to the other, to the situation, to yourself? Can you already be that? Can you already embody that? Remembering that compassion, because we're made in God's image, is our birthright. It's what we're made of. One moment for a silent prayer in your heart. Prayer for transformation. Prayer for blessing. Prayer for healing. One moment in your heart to bless everyone on this Zoom. 190 people, different places, one breath, one heart. Blessing each other from our eyes closed, from our heart. Let's take a beautiful breath in. Beautiful breath out. Let's get ready to say Kaddish with Rabbi Mark.
Thank you so much, Rabbah Mira. Again, another beautiful, beautiful practice together. And we seal it as we do each time, offering those of you who are in mourning or observing a yahrzeit, or if it's your custom to participate in the Kaddish, to do so. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, just to stay present and help create a minyan of support and comfort for those who are. If you like to put the name or names of those you're honoring or remembering today in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish, you're very welcome to do that. And thanks to Kat for sharing the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on the screen. And if you're reciting it, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit to recite the words together, and you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Kada Shema, Yama Dura Kiristabian Leaf Pakunte, Yechon, Yomechon, Ukaye Dechon, Allah, Bishantani, Imru, Amen. Ishme, Rabba, Mevarach, Olam, Ulame, Amaya, Allah, Yishalach, Yar, Yitramam, Yitkabar, Yitaleh, Yital, Shmo, Bekuchu, Masrich, Amol, Kirchat, Ashrata, Mene Kiran Ba'ama
Amen.
Amin.
Amen.
Lama Rabba
Aleinu
Mika
V'Kol Yisrael,
Aleinu
Kol
V'Kol
Yisrael,
Yisrael
Aleinu
Shalom
V'Yaviru,
Imamav Yeshavel
Aleinu V'Yaviru, and
Yisrael
Yaakov
Yasetivel Imru Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thank you so much as always for joining us today. And if you're leaving us now, just a reminder to join us tomorrow to sit into Shabbat with Rebecca Schisler. As is our custom, always a beautiful way to end the week. But I want to thank Rabbah Mira and Neshama Weil for yet another beautiful teaching and practice today, one in a series. And everyone is welcome to stay on for a conversation with Rabbah Mira and to share your reflections on the experience. Maybe you just want to stay and continue with that concentration practice to cultivate the midah of rachamim, of compassion, for another few minutes with us together. And if you do have a question, please put it in the chat box and preface it with by writing question in all caps to keep an eye on it. Mira, thanks. We were, before we began, we're just kind of sharing about, turmoil in Israel right now, turmoil around the world. We began doing this, at the onset of the pandemic. It's almost exactly 3 years. In fact, our first sit was the day after Purim, 3 years ago. So we're really almost at the 3-year mark of doing this. And there have been different levels of crisis that we've experienced. And you alluded to, and I just wanted to I think it's worth talking a little bit about why we do this practice, especially when we're facing so much, so many problems, so many issues that are real and pressing and disturbing and upsetting. And there can be an inclination to avoid and tune out. Some people might interpret this as avoiding and tuning out, but I think you and I know that's exactly the opposite of the intention. But it's worth explicitly saying something about that, if you would. I know, you're in Tel Aviv, and of course, people know that these are very, very challenging times in Israel these days. So maybe, I don't know if you're willing to speak a little bit personally about how the practice helps you in terms of being in that. We all have, some of us have personal challenges, some of us are struggling with social, political issues, etc. Anyway, yeah. Why do we do this?
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to share a few thoughts on this, and then I want to address Lauren's question, which I think is very important. How do we respond with compassion to someone who says something racist or anti-Semitic? I think it's very important, and very important not to mistaken, to kind of mix up between compassion and kind of like letting people abuse us. Okay, it's very important. But your question, Mark, very important as well. Why do we do that? So I was sharing before we started this sit that I had the feeling that I'm coming and the world is burning, right? Both, socially and humanly, and so much hatred, and also the climate. So burning, literally, like the world is kind of just like the body, right? When we're suffering inside, the body is kind of showing it. So the world as our body is like burning with the heat. And when we sit, and as you said, I can't remember how you put it, Mark, but it's like we sit to turn in, actually. We sit to connect with, right? We don't sit to tune out. We sit to tune in. That's really the first thing I want to say about practice. I start by sitting in the middle of the fire. I don't run away. I don't, hurry to respond. Or first, I kind of pause. I pause so that I can really, really observe and feel, bring presence both to what's happening around, so that I don't rush into projections and interpretations, and, and also to feel what's going on inside, right? Wise action requires clarity, right? And wise action is extremely important. I was just reminded earlier today of something in the Talmud that reminds us that, Basically, learning Torah is so that we can then act in the world. All right, so we need reflection before action, and that's why we sit. We sit so that we can be cool, literally, in the middle of the fire, so that then we can act from a place, and this is a good segue for me to address the second question, from a place of compassion. And now I want to be very specific about this in the light of Lauren's question. Being compassionate doesn't mean if someone is coming and insulting me, me saying, oh, that's fine, please keep going, you know. Being compassionate doesn't mean not putting boundaries, not setting boundaries, not stopping something unfair from going on, not defending myself, right? Being compassionate, in a way, almost has nothing to do with my actions. Being compassionate is a mindset. It's the way I am able to bring some space in a situation. So for this example, someone who's going to come and insult me, which by the way happened in Jerusalem a few weeks ago, for the first time in my life, I was called a dirty Jew by Arabs in the car in a mixed neighborhood, and with more insults. Being compassionate means having enough distance, going back to being cool when it hurts, when it burns, to see that this person is probably saying what they've heard their whole life, is probably feeling very powerless in their own life, is probably suffering. I don't know of anyone happy who would use some energy to insult someone else, right? So being compassionate actually helps me. It helps me not take in. Doesn't mean I wasn't hurt and I wasn't a little shaken, right? It's shocking. It's a shock. And part of the practice is to be very honest. I'm hurt. That hurts. It touched me, you know. And then the beauty of practice is also, I don't need to be taken in that vicious circle of hatred and then saying, you know, you dirty Arab and you bad person. Even saying this, like this hurts me to say it because I don't think it. I just see a human being who is caught in the circle of hatred and doesn't know what to do, you know? So when someone insults, you know, if you have a crazy person, schizophrenic, insulting you in the street, you're not going to start hating them. You see them for what they, oh my God, this person is really ill. And it hurts, it's unpleasant, but what are you going to do? You're going to insult them back? You're going to hurt them? No, right? You just don't respond just because, you know, it's the wisest thing to do. You just pass your way. Then if someone becomes violent, then you have to stop. You have to stop them. You have to protect yourself. You can stop physically, you can call it, you know. So that's really what I want to say. What I want to say is this, really, really being compassionate doesn't mean being weak. It's about your mindset. It's not about your actions. And sometimes the most, and we had this conversation, Mark, a while ago about generosity, letting people in, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes being compassionate is actually closing the door when I see that it's not going to help the other person for me to open the door and let them invade me. Right. Sometimes being compassionate means being stricter or harsher on the surface of things. So, and Nancy really summarized well. Compassion gives space and distance. Thank you for summarizing.
Yeah.
But
I was going to, you know, that's a beautiful answer, both questions really. And one of the other things I was going to ask you about is, you know, you used the English word compassion, and then in the text, in the Meor Einayim text, focuses on and quotes that passage from the Talmud that says, well, how can we attach ourselves to God? God is, you know, we would be able to exist. We can't coexist with God, but we can cleave to God's qualities, and the quality that's cited there, right, is rachamim. Yeah. And I was going to invite you to just sort of unpack what you meant by compassion versus kindness, mercy, but in the flow of the midot, of the sirot and the midot, it's we have chesed, loving kindness or loving connection, and then gevura, the boundary, you know, the setting of a boundary, and then rachamim after that, right, which has the element of gevura built in, which you were describing. It says, like, I'm not going to let their reality invade my own reality, If someone is
Yeah.
insulting me, like you said, and it's easy to see that if somebody is, ill, mentally ill or otherwise ill, and you say this, they're like, well, that's their
Yeah.
reality. And clearly, this doesn't affect me. That's really them. But you're inviting us
Yeah.
to go take that further to say that, that kind of hatred must be coming from a place of suffering, which can evoke compassion, but not necessarily make us more vulnerable. We can still have the boundary to protect ourselves and to oppose it and to maintain a sense of chesed and connection with that
Yeah.
person. So do you want to say a little bit more about rachamim or about compassion, like why you use that word?
Yeah, first of all, I'm really grateful that you kind of explained this within the frame of the sfirot, of the attributes, because this is what I was pointing to, but I didn't want to talk for too long, but I wanted to come back to this. So, friends, Mark has really brilliantly kind of like, how to say, spread it out for us, that basically it takes both gvura and chesed. And sometimes we have to start with gvura, which is putting limits, setting limits, and then chesed, then we can actually bring the kindness. Technically, rachamim is more mercy, and chemla is compassion. And I think the nuance here is that chemla, compassion, can be, I see someone in the street who doesn't have a coat, and I feel compassion and I want to give them a coat. So it's connected with generosity. And the compassion of rachamim, of mercy, is more in the cases that we're talking about right now, which is, I'm going to spare this person from my hatred, from my, impulse for revenge, or from my anger. And I think the Hebrew language is very rich. There are many sides to compassion and many nuances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, yeah.
So yeah, the others, we just have another couple of minutes, but you referred to this as a concentration practice, and I just want to invite you to say a little bit more like what you meant by concentration practice. It also struck me that, at least how I am understanding the concentration practice of focusing, of bringing attention to a point, but concentration in the other sense of like a distillation and that description of the midot as kind of a concentration of the divine, right? Because that word is, of tzimtzum, sam, right? Of kind of contracting, of, like immersing in this kind of essence of the divine, right? We have these various essences. So I thought about concentration in that sense also.
Oh, I love that you're making this connection. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Yeah, there's something about this, is that like tzimtzum is like I'm going to just contract myself as to make space. And also contraction is like I'm going to contract, bring together my attention. It's not like a kind of open attention and I let my, thoughts come and I observe them and I come back to my breath just to have an anchor, or to my body. It's another meditation technique. And that's why I said it, because sometimes we think meditation is one thing, right? Coming back to your body and your breath, which is what we did at the beginning as a quieting practice. But then we moved into a cultivation practice, concentration. So like bringing my attention into one point, and that one point is to actually explore, what is it like to feel compassion? What is it like to embody compassion? Because it's like, I feel it's like feeling our tank. And once we feel our tank and we really have felt it and really spend time like focusing on it. By the way, letrakez in Hebrew, like to concentrate, is like rikud, is like when Jews concentrate, it's the same. It's like, because then you have this kind of concentrate of energy that then you can spread out. That's the practice I invited us to do, a concentration practice, which is a cultivation practice, cultivating that midah within us.
I love the thank you for the image, and also for helping us refill our compassion tanks today, Mira. It was a wonderful practice. Maybe just for Kat, if you have it handy, if you don't mind putting the links again to Rabbah Mira's other opportunities for sitting, even though we always really appreciate the opportunity to have you, and we're so blessed to have you be part of the wonderful, roster of teachers here, but there's an opportunity to do this, and you're doing it every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monday to Thursday. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
can, everyone has an opportunity to do that, and also beautiful teaching from the Meori Nayim as well on the weekly parsha also. So, okay, friends, hope to see you tomorrow to practice with Rebecca Schisler, to sit into Shabbat together. Mira, wishing you and early Shabbat Shalom. Many blessings for all that you and everyone, all our siblings need to meet the current challenge. There's so many challenges. Just sending you lots and lots of blessings from all of us. And same to all of you who are joining us now. And we hope to see you soon.
Me too. Amen. Amen. Thank you.